House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Before we begin today, I want to thank the clerk for arranging that Thursday's meeting can be from 11 to 1 in our normal time slot. Today we're here to talk about the supplementary estimates, from 2021-2022. And we're glad to welcome the Honourable Miriam Monsef, the Minister for Women and Gender Equality, and officials as well from the Department for Women and Gender Equality. We have Madame Roy, who is the Deputy Minister, and Madame Gardner, who is the Assistant Deputy Minister. So we're going to begin with 5 minutes of comments from the Minister, and then we'll go into our rounds of questions. So, Minister, you may begin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hello, colleagues. Bonjour, Anin, salam alaikum. I join you from my home in Peterborough, Kawartha, on Mississauga and Anishinaabeg territory. And I'm so grateful to all of you for your work. Truly, your work has never been more important. I'd like to acknowledge my wonderful Parliamentary Secretary, Goody Hutchings, who consistently reminds us to look out for the most rural, the most isolated, and wish the public service a happy public service week. This has been a difficult 16 months for all of us, but you have been there for Canadians in their time of need. And if we're number one in the G7 and G20 for vaccine administrations with the first dose, if Canada's going to be okay on the other side of this pandemic, it's truly because of public servants like you, and we appreciate you. I'd also like to acknowledge that it's Pride Month. So happy Pride, happy Filipino Heritage Month. Many thanks to Salma Zahid for bringing that bill forward. And of course, it's Indigenous History Month, a time for all of us to reflect collectively and to learn more. Madam Chair, I am so grateful to be here today as we reflect too on the upcoming Canada Day, which will be better than the last one we had. There's more to be optimistic about, more to be hopeful about. With 75% of the population here in Peterborough, Kawartha having received their first dose, we are close to putting the pandemic behind us. But even as we do that, we recognize that there is work to do. We'll all have to survey the damage that the pandemic caused, roll up our sleeves, and build back better systems and institutions, and create 1 million jobs by the end of this year. There are also many reckonings happening, Madam Chair. Climate change, the horrendous experiences of our elders in long-term care, Black Lives Matter, Me Too, who is an essential worker, and pay equity. The rates of femicides continue to increase. Anti-Asian rhetoric and anti-Asian hate is increasing, as is anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The bodies of 215 children and many, many more being discovered each and every day offers an opportunity as Canadians to have courageous conversations and to move forward in a better way. I was in London this weekend and I was grateful to see MP Matheson and her mom, as well as Salma Zahid, Minister Al-Ghabra, as well as Peter Fergus-Katos and Kate Young. We witnessed the burial of 4 bodies, 4 lives that ended too soon, 3 women and a man. And these folks were targeted because of how they worship in a country like Canada, because how they worship. And the accused for this terrorist act is a 20-year-old. And I reflect on the fact that it's been 20 years since 9/11, and the rhetoric, the policies, the politics, the decisions made since 9/11, and I have to accept that that all has fueled hate, and those seeds of hate we must work together to address and to stop. There's clearly a need to have a conversation about Islamophobia and all forms of hate, and I want to thank the chair of our Justice Committee and the chair of the Liberal Women's Caucus, Iqra Khalid, for standing up in the House of Commons bravely in 2017 and asking us to study Islamophobia. Because of her, we have the tools, the lexicon, and the partnerships to fight Islamophobia. And that fight for her was not an easy one to fight. Madam Chair, our oppressions are connected. Whether it's sexism, misogyny, racism, ableism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of hate, our oppressions are connected. So it is only truly together that we can put an end to the hate, to the violence, and build back better communities, stronger advocacy networks, and programs that put an end to the violence and ensure that every Canadian is safe. I'm hopeful and optimistic too, Madam Chair, because despite COVID, we're moving forward, we're protecting progress, and I truly hope that we all support Budget 2021 because it includes historic investments that those who've come before us have fought for. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now we're going to go into our first round of questions, beginning with Ms. Sahota for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank the Minister for being here. Minister, I'm going to get to my questions immediately. This past year, Canadians have been shocked and appalled at revelations of sexual misconduct in the highest ranks of our Canadian armed forces. However, it was well known that this wasn't the first time. In 2015, former Supreme Court Justice, the Honourable Marie Deschamps, released a scathing report on issues within the Canadian Armed Forces. One of her recommendations was to clarify the definition of sexual misconduct, DAOD 5019-5, and it was quoted, confusing and misleading because the DAOD's use of term is inconsistent with its plain language meaning, end quote. However, this wasn't changed until November 2020, 5 years after the report was released. In your mandate letter from the Prime Minister, you've been charged with ensuring GBA Plus is conducted within the government, which would include the military. Can you please explain why you did not see to it when this report came out that DAOD 5019- was amended in 2015?
Madam Chair, I've brought a formal update for the committee. May I read it into the record about sexual misconduct in the military? I share my honourable colleagues' outrage and disappointment, as all Canadians are, with the ongoing disturbing developments. National defense, of course, as is the case with our government, we continue to encourage everyone who's been affected by sexual misconduct to come forward. Our goal is for those who come forward to be heard and to feel safe and supported. Currently, the Sexual Misconduct Response Centre provides 24/7 confidential support to Canadian Armed Forces members, and I thank them for that. The SMRC is independent from the chain of command and offers a variety of counseling,
Minister, but
support,
that's not my... Minister,
I'm getting to it, Madam Chair. I'd like to provide a wholesome update, as I think this is an issue Canadians care about. May I continue?
I have limited time. My question is very direct. Can you please explain?
I'll be respectful of your time, Madam Sahota.
I will add time to Ms. Sahota in order to hear the rest of the Minister.
Thank you.
The SMRC is independent from the chain of command and offers a variety of supports. Moving forward, the National Defence will leverage $236.2 million to expand and enhance those supports. So it's a 24/7 support line that will continue to be there, and folks can access it from anywhere in the world. Madam Chair, I'd like to add that in this budget, there is an opportunity for those of us who care about this issue, who want to bring about cultural change faster, to do that work and to vote in favor of it. As for my role in all this, I assure my colleagues and Canadians that my team and I are keeping a very close eye on this. We're connecting with survivors and experts, and we're ensuring that that intersectional gendered lens is applied. And I'll say this too before I hand the mic back over to you, Madam Chair. It is clear that what we have done over the past 6 years has not gone far enough. We understand that, and we're committed to moving forward faster and ensure that every woman, man, and gender diverse person in our armed forces and D&D feels safe and feels like they can contribute meaningfully to their country.
Great. Back to you, Ms. Sahota.
Minister, you still didn't answer my question. My question was, This report came out in 2015, and it's 5 years later, there was amendment done to the definition of sexual misconduct when you were told 5 years ago to change this. Why did it take so long for you to get moving on that?
Madam Chair, as I've said, it's clear that we've not gone far enough, quickly enough. The Sexual Misconduct Response Center did not exist back when we started, and we've helped set it up. And I thank the folks who work there. We're working to expand it further. And rest assured, Madam Chair, that our commitment to the safety of those who look after the safety of us and the most vulnerable around the world remains top priority.
Minister, I'm going to interrupt and say that your words mean nothing if you didn't do anything for 6 years. So you're not answering my question, but I'll leave that and move on. Recently, in Justice Fisher, his report, he acknowledged that DAOD has recently been changed. However, he also pointed out this new DAOD was still inadequate. How involved were you in the development of this new DAOD?
Madam Chair, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. I imagine if she's asking these questions, she wants to hear my words, and I will continue to give her my best response. We're working closely with the minister, with the department, with SMRC to ensure that they're moving forward in a good way and ensuring that the directive that has been sent down through the military, the one that's been drafted by CAF, is applied thoughtfully. It's why Madam Louise Arbour is going to lead an independent external review into harassment and sexual misconduct in the military. And we recognize that we need to make more changes in our systems to create safety, inclusion, and belonging. And we will continue to work with all willing partners to achieve that outcome.
Madam Chair, do I have time?
Yes, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. So what we see here, Minister, is you constantly are not standing up for women when it comes to making sure that they're represented in your policy. Your colleague was here last year and told us that no GBA plus analysis was done on COVID relief programs. It was your responsibility to ensure that it was done. Now we're hearing that you have not been involved in rewriting of the DOAD, even though they particularly affect women. And then on the weekend, we heard from the media that 2 senior officers in the military went golfing. One of them, now the former Vice Chief of the Defense Staff, has the military police report directly reporting to him, all while the former CDS is under investigation for sexual misconduct. And the woman at the heart of the investigation told this committee that she didn't believe that she would get justice, and that the former CDS believed that he owned the CFNIS. And given this weekend's article, still believes that. Minister, while your colleague spoke up against this, you remained silent. Minister, why do you remain so silent when it comes to women and giving them a voice?
Madam Chair, that's inaccurate. I was standing up for women just last week, fighting a bill that was attempting to control our bodies and our choices. And I stand up for women and girls and gender diverse folks every single day.
We're going now to Ms. Dillon for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to our minister for being here today at committee. I just wanted to say your opening statement, it touches all of us in many ways. This violence we saw in the last week, things that have unfolded in the past 2 weeks, I think these are certainly issues that need to be addressed. And I thank you so much for bringing them up in this committee, because that's what we're all about here, trying to help those who are the most vulnerable and to be able to bring justice and any assistance we can. And with that, I'd like to maybe start with how the government is assuring that women and other vulnerable groups are at the forefront of the recovery and won't be left behind. How can you ensure this? Thank you.
Thank you so much, MP Dillon, for your leadership. I know as a Quebecer, it has been a really difficult time for you and your communities. And I know that those femicides aren't just numbers for you, that they're community members, and that you continue to live with the consequences of those tragedies. And I thank you for your leadership. As you know, we work really hard, and it's thanks to the public service that we have a tool called GBA Plus, where we start, when we do this at best, when we start our analysis focusing on the underrepresented and underserved, and we've applied that lens throughout the entirety of COVID, maybe not in the first 24 to 48 hours or a week of COVID as we were working to set up responses to this unprecedented crisis. But very quickly, the Prime Minister asked all of us, and we discussed it in cabinet and amongst our teams, that we're going to make sure that GBA Plus is core to our decision making. And I'm really glad we did that, because it helped us see how older women in rural communities were faring. It helped us understand how small businesses in really small communities were taking up the business supports that our government was putting forward. It helped us for the first time when we started collecting race-based data to add to our existing statistics. It helped us see that newcomers, racialized folks, Black women, those on the front lines of the fight against COVID, they're carrying the heaviest burden. And that work was recognized by the international community. We may not be perfect, but we've done the best GBA Plus of COVID response in the world, and we continue to endeavor to respond well. In the budget 2021 is the most feminist budget that any federal government has put forward. Those women whose experiences we're tracking, those with care responsibilities, need universal early learning and childcare, and they need their childcare fees cut by half as soon as possible. And if the budget passes, with the support of our colleagues and all parties, we'll get to that cost being cut in half by next year. We'll get to average $10 a day childcare in 5 years. We'll hopefully be able to move forward with the budget so that more than $3 billion in funds can be unlocked moving forward to respond to the calls for justice in the MMIWG report, and ensure that we move forward with our response to gender-based violence. I sincerely hope, Madam Chair, that every single one of us votes in favor of this budget, and that we work together moving forward to ensure that we address the vulnerabilities that COVID has only amplified.
Thank you so much, Minister. And I'd also like to say how appreciative I am that you brought up Quebec and the 11 femicides which took place in just about the first 4 months of this year. It's very hard to stomach these, and we just mourn the loss of these women. And I would like to ask you, please, if you can provide us more details on the work of the National Action Plan to end gender-based violence to date until now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, MP Dillon. To date, as part of our emergency response, we've partnered and supported more than 250 organizations in Quebec offering emergency gender-based violence supports with more than $17 million, and that's before Budget 2021. Well, Budget 21 offers with $601 million for a range of GBV programming is another down payment on the response to ending gender-based violence and providing supports. Includes ways of ensuring that young men, particularly men and boys, are healing and that they're part of the solution. It includes for human trafficking related programs and capacity building. And yes, MP Matheson, even core funding supports for GBV organizations, as well as a secretariat to coordinate the work with provinces, territories, Indigenous partners, municipalities, civil society organizations, and the federal government, as well as statistics. Additional data will be banking and harnessing as well as community-based research. This budget is an important tool, an important step forward in our collective national fight to end gender-based violence.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant,
Thank you very much. We now move to Ms. Larouche for 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you also, Minister, for being with us today. On this day, as a Quebecer, that is particularly moving for me. 13. We are at the 13th femicide in Quebec. It's a number that sends chills down my back, and it's in that context that we are meeting with you today, Madam Minister. And I understand that you're here to talk about your action plan to end violence and the federal strategy against gender-based violence. But the problem remains. Would it not be time to review the strategy or accelerate the process? Recently, I had a discussion with the Department of Public Safety and Status of Women in Quebec regarding this topic of femicides. To them, the essential question is how much money is going directly to organizations. Quebec wants to know the plan. How much money will go directly to Quebec to organizations? There's money for coordination, prevention, statistics, studies, but how much money will go on the ground? Because that's where things are happening. That's where things play out. And we need to put that strategy in place because in the meantime, women are dying. So I'd like to hear sympathy for the loved ones of that 13th victim.
On behalf of the Government of Canada, on behalf of the Prime Minister, we all extend our condolences to families and loved ones grieving deaths that are entirely preventable. And I remember, Madame Larouche, it wasn't too long ago when all of us as MPs were in the House of Commons during an emergency debate. And, the numbers were a lot lower, but the pain was just as intense and the deaths just as preventable when we debated for the first time in the House of Commons gender-based violence as an emergency issue. And my team and I took notes, and actually what you see in the budget is the acceleration of the pace of the response and a significant investment from the federal government to move forward. As you pointed out, there are 132 sexual assault centers and non-Indigenous shelters that have received federal funding over this past year, 113 gender-based violence service organizations, and 7 Indigenous off-reserve shelters that have received emergency supports. Moving forward, we are in regular conversation with our colleagues in Quebec and in other provinces to make sure that these dollars get to the front lines quickly, that there is no lag between the time it takes for organizations in Quebec to receive funding compared to everybody else in the country. And Madam Chair, I am always open to ideas on how to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness as well as the equity in these programs. So if colleagues want to reach out with their input, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to take that call and happy to put an end, happy to be part of this work. But I assure you that just like you, I am haunted by every single death, every single headline. And those are just the ones that we know of. There are women sleeping in their cars right now because they have nowhere else to go. There are women staying in abusive relationships because they don't know that there are other places that they can go to. There are women trapped in harmful circumstances because of poverty. And that is the work that we can all do together to move forward and create more choice and opportunity for women and non-binary folks in this country.
Écoutez, Madame la Ministre. Minister, I wanted to ask other questions. and I'm trying to show that I was ready to speak. During the emergency debate last time, there was a difference between the rest of provinces of 6 months. So how can we accelerate the signing of bilateral agreements when it's time to transfer money to Quebec, to those who are ready and have the skills to manage that money? Public safety and status of women are asking for an acceleration of these bilateral agreements. And when we're talking about efficiency, sometimes there's overlaps. We know that there's a federal strategy and national action plan. So what is the difference here?
The federal strategy that Patty Haidu brought into effect back in 2017 because of her work was the first time that the federal government was coordinating its efforts and investing significantly in gender-based violence. It gave us statistics that we didn't have before, data we didn't have before. This next phase is phase 2 of Canada's response to gender-based violence. It's got 3 times as much funding. And of course, we've built partnerships, programs, and efficiencies that will scale up. If colleagues have input on how to move that work quickly forward, particularly in Quebec, that's a priority for me too, and I'm all ears, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Ms. Matheson for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister Monsef. When you came to London last weekend, it was greatly appreciated by the community, and certainly by myself. One of the things, though, that my community has been asking for out of all of this tragedy is action. And it's something that I certainly have been asking for as well. And I am grateful that you were listening and had mentioned core funding. That certainly warms my heart, and I will be watching carefully and working with you to move that forward for all those organizations who provide that incredible support to our communities. One of the things in terms of that action that's required, and you, of course, as the minister responsible for women, sit at the cabinet table to represent women, and we've heard from you often at this committee about a lot of things and programs and departments that impact women but don't fall under your jurisdiction. We've talked about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We've talked about pay equity legislation, and of course today talking about defense and how that's referred to others. However, you have that seat at the table. So in terms of that murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, a national action plan was technically released. However, there were no financials attached to it, no timeline. So if you could speak to that, and when people in this country, and Indigenous women in particular, can expect to see those timelines and that money attached.
MP Matheson, thank you for your leadership for your community in these very difficult times. And if I have time, I will talk about Islamophobia. Let me talk about your question about MMIWG first. In terms of funding attached to it, there's $2.2 billion in budget 2021 that we hope will pass in the upcoming vote. And those funds, they start flowing this year in 2021. So that work will move forward with culture being at the heart of the work, survivors being at the heart of the work. And the plan that we put forward a few weeks ago, there is no other plan like it in the world. We're doing something that hasn't been done quite like this before, with families and survivors at the center. Of course, we've learned from other colleagues in countries like New Zealand, but Canada's moving forward as we all know, time's up on this. And we're not building from scratch either. We've invested significantly in relationships with partners on the ground, and we will move forward in a good way so that this national tragedy, we're able to change the story. And happy to provide more information if there's a follow-up about the MMIWG plan.
There is absolutely.
On Islamophobia, would you like me to respond to what we're doing on Islamophobia?
Maybe in a little bit.
Sure.
It absolutely is important.
Sure.
But I wanted to specifically ask, you said in 2021, of course, there's a crass realization that we may be in an election. So are you waiting for those funds until after the next election, or will you be providing them before?
So as my officials know, I'm working very, very hard with our colleagues across government departments to make sure that once, God willing, we get that vote and it's a positive vote, that those funds are released as quickly as possible. And P. Matheson, as you know, this isn't the first time we're funding Indigenous supports and Indigenous innovation. We're building on investments we've already made in women serving organizations, and we'll continue to take our lead from them. So the answer is, as quickly as possible, we intend to ensure that these funds build on existing investments, because there is a lot of work to do and there's not a lot of time to waste. I also will add that we're moving forward to address the cell phone gaps along highways of tiers with $50 million that's already been released. We've already moved forward with one project in BC to ensure that the entirety of the road, the highway, is connected, with more Indigenous communities and cell gap projects underway as we speak. So the work is happening. Budget 2021 investments build on it, and we'll move forward very quickly to roll those dollars out as quickly, as effectively, and as equitably as we can.
In terms of pay equity legislation, you had referred us the last time we talked about this to the Minister of Labour. We heard from the Minister of Labour, and it seemed as though those regulations were going to pass quickly. However, we're still waiting. It has been at least 6 months since the last promise of those regulations being put forward. Do you have any idea of when, having sat at the cabinet table and discussed this, pushing, of course, the agenda and ensuring that women don't have to wait any longer for pay equity than they should, to actually start that process? Because, as you know, they could wait up to 8 or 9 more years for actual pay equity to be implemented. So do you know when those regulations will be passed through?
They come into effect this year, Madam Chair, and I agree with my colleagues. This recommendation was in the Royal Commission on the Status of Women report 50 years ago, and we're moving forward. As you heard from Minister Tassi, the commissioner will be officially in our place. Karen Jansen is the first pay equity commissioner in Canada. The pay equity regulations were pre-published in Part 1 of the Canada Gazette back in November. They were there until June. Once finalized, the regulations will complement the Act and allow the regime to be brought into force later this year.
Very good. Now we're going to go into our second round of questions, beginning with Ms. Wong for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank the Minister for coming to this meeting so that we can listen to the update of the government. Now, my questions are many. First of all, I'd like to let you know that we are all very proud of our place of origin. I think I am, and I hope you are. And as time goes on, there's a lot of violence against women, especially Asian women, and not much has been done by the government. I brought it up in question period, but there's no definite answer about actions. And of course, we talk about shelters, and again, in the Lower Mainland, especially in my city of Richmond, the women are crying for help because they wanted to get into the shelters, and of course the shelters are crying for money as well. So I mean, you may have beautiful plans, but if the money doesn't really go directly to the organization's need, I think there's little. And of course the alienation of the Western provinces, I mean, you can see a lot of money pumping to other provinces, but not to the Western provinces. So yeah, I have so many questions. I hope that you can briefly, instead of just giving us a speech of your own, answer all these questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Wong. I'll try not to give you a speech of my own, but use my words to tell you that, first of all, there's additional funding for housing and shelters and transition homes in budget 2021, and I hope colleagues will support it. We're directly delivering funds to the front lines in ways we've not done before, in the fastest, most efficient way. We've cut red tape, and we're going to continue with that approach. On the place of origin and anti-Asian hate, let me say to my colleague that first of all, no, I wasn't always proud of my origin. Post 9/11, being a high schooler, I faced, as many did across the country and around the world, a certain level of hate and demonization that continued to build up, and it did affect my cultural identity. And it took a long time for me to feel secure in that personal cultural identity. And I see the anti-Asian hate and other forms of hate rampant right now. And I'm alarmed because there are young people who are going to grow up uncomfortable and insecure in their own skin, and we can do something about that. I also will say to my colleague, Madam Chair, that the $100 million Feminist Response and Recovery Fund will be announcing the recipients of that investment soon. And my team and I have taken special care to ensure that Black, Indigenous, racialized folks who are disproportionately affected by violence also receive a disproportionately high level of the funds to build capacity at the community level and regional and national level. And if my colleague has organizations that she thinks we are doing great work and that we have to keep an eye out for proposals or otherwise, please reach out. I would love to hear from her.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister. My next question is about seniors. I mean, elder abuse is on the rise, and especially during COVID time. And many of these elderly people are women. So I don't, and again, I ask the same question, and then again, nothing has been done. So would you like to tell all of us what you are going to do to help our poor seniors who are under such threat of being abused?
Madam Chair, first, I disagree with an assertion at this table that nothing's been done. Actually, more has been done than has been done by any government before, but it is not enough. We have to do more. Centuries of misogyny, hate, racism, sexism, colonialism don't undo themselves in 5 or 6 years. And with the reckoning happening all around us, we are accelerating the pace of progress. And today is a day to acknowledge elder abuse. Absolutely, it is. And what we've seen during the pandemic, particularly one of the hardest lessons of the pandemic, one of the most shameful experiences of the pandemic, is our elders experience neglect and abuse and such undignified care, and those who care for them are not treated properly. We have partnered with organizations that are working to address and prevent elder abuse across the country. My colleague, Deb Schultz, the minister responsible for seniors, is particularly outspoken on this. And again, if there are organizations in your communities who are doing important work and need that additional support, please reach out to my team and I, because we'd love to partner with them.
Very good. Now we'll go to Ms. Sidhu for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, and your team for being with us today. Before we begin, I wanted to reflect on what you said in your opening statement on the attack in London. Minister, last night I joined the vigil in my community in Brampton, and I saw many women from all communities looking for allies in the government. And I know you're working very hard for them. And you have been working throughout the pandemic. This pandemic has highlighted some inequities in society. And I want to say you about how these are being addressed in Budget 2021. Minister, since the last time you appeared at committee, Budget 2021 has been tabled. Can you expand on how the investment from Budget 2021 will directly respond to the needs of women, gender, or diverse folks and equality?
Thank you so much, MP Sidhu, for your leadership on this committee, on the Health Committee, and from young leaders in my community who live with diabetes and who have come to the Hill many times to advocate for government supports. Let me say a huge thank you to you. You've shown these kids that they don't have to wait to grow up to lead, that they can be part of the democratic process long before they turn 18, and you're delivering for them. I appreciate that. MP Sidhu. The lessons of COVID, as Patty Haidu has said, this virus sneaks into the cracks in our system. it flares up. And we have an opportunity to build back better systems while looking out for those who've been hardest hit by COVID. And Budget 2021 offers us tools to do that, to create 1 million jobs, to put COVID behind us, and to grow our economy by focusing specifically on those who've been hardest hit. Those on the front lines of COVID, those in the tourism sector, small businesses, young people, women, and those in isolated communities and really small and rural communities as well. One of the ways we're doing that is by investing in high-speed internet. Isolation is made that much more difficult when you don't have access to this essential service. And thanks to Goody Hutchings and our rural caucus, we're moving forward and we're implementing Canada's single largest investment in broadband. And I'm grateful to communities for their uptake. By the end of this year, hundreds of thousands of households will have access to this essential service who didn't have it when we first formed government. There's also, as I mentioned, supports for housing and shelters. We're collecting data and disaggregated data and building for the first time a data strategy with partners at StatsCan. Following up on MP Wong's point about seniors, in addition to providing income supports, you know that we're contributing $9 million to the United Way so that they can continue to support local senior serving organizations. We're working to keep seniors at home because they have that preference, and aging in place has been seen as a best practice. And there's additional funds for community-based organizations to provide them those wraparound supports. There is, as I said, more than $3 billion for GBV. There's investments for skills development and training for those who have to skill up on the other side of the COVID, with some 215,000 training opportunities for young people. We're providing employers with a top-up. We're increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. We're ensuring that the working poor have a top-up, a living wage, so that they can respond to the costs of living and to the needs of their communities in a meaningful way. And I sincerely hope, Madam Chair, that colleagues will vote in favor of this historic budget and also ensure that we move forward with universal early learning and childcare.
Thank you, Minister. Budget 2021 has set aside specific funding allocation towards programming for men and boys. I believe this is the first time we are prioritizing this group in the work of preventing and addressing gender-based violence. Could you speak on why this grew to be such a significant priority in the work you do?
We work with Terry Duguid, who was my parliamentary secretary at a time, and built a framework to support men and boys in the work to address and prevent gender-based violence. The new investments in Budget 2021 expand on the work we've already done and allow us opportunities to build systems and networks of organizations that are feminists in their approach and support men and boys as they help other men and boys heal and become champions for equity and change.
Excellent. Madame LaRouche, 2,5.
Ms. LaRouche, 2.5 minutes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So in my previous questions, I showed that public safety and status of women in Quebec, we're still asking for details on transfers to help women. And they were asking for more money to be invested in social and affordable housing. The minister says that she has a feminist government. So why has the government let the Deschamps report linger on the shelf since 2015? We've heard about this from journalists since 2014, and since 2015 we've had recommendations. The RCMP, the Bastarache report, had said that women in the RCMP are victims of all sorts of things, crimes, allegations. They're not in a good situation. The Bastarache report is still on the shelf. They say they're feminist, but Indigenous women and girls, their recommendations, well, it took time to put them into place. Indigenous groups had to call out these delays in recommendation implementation for the government to take action. My colleague talked about pay equity. How many years has that been talked about? The minister said that pay equity was discussed 50 years ago. It's not yet in place. The action plan, we've asked for dates and for specific amounts to help women who are victims of violence. And I'm not even talking about seniors, those who are totally forgotten by the government, those who are aged 65 to 74. They're not going to receive any money. And who are the most forgotten and who experience the most poverty? Women who are seniors, and they don't wait until 75 to be poor. Those who are between 65 and 74 are isolated and suffering. And the pandemic has exacerbated all of that. And then women in entrepreneurs. Does the minister collaborate with her colleagues? There's also justice. We need to look at our justice system. 30 seconds, please, to give us a few impressions about how conversations go around the table to discuss with other ministers and colleagues.
Madam Chair, my colleague just asked 8 questions, so I will try to answer as quickly as I can in order she asked them. On public safety and status of women and our partnership with Quebec, we have a great relationship with them and we'll continue to work out the details. I hope colleagues vote for the budget so that those funds can flow starting this June. On housing, we've signed an agreement with Quebec and we're moving forward with additional funds in the budget. On DND, my colleague is right. Despite all the progress that's been made, not enough has been done, and we're committed to accelerating that work, and additional resources in the budget will help, but that alone will not help. This conversation is part of a greater reckoning we're having as a country, and that culture change has to be part of it. On pay equity, as she asked, as my previous colleague asked, pay equity legislation is actually moving forward on time despite COVID, and those regulations will come into effect this year, and employers will have time to then build those plans. My colleague asked about gender-based violence and seniors as well. I agree. Women in rural communities, particularly those 55 and up, are hardest hit, and we're working hard to ensure that they have the security and supports they need. On GBV, we've already rolled out historic investments, and as soon as the funds are unlocked from Budget 2021, we'll roll those out quickly as well so that they get to the front lines quickly. And lastly, Madam Chair, on women entrepreneurs, I was there when Bardish Chagger developed the strategy and ensured that that feminist lens was applied. We're collecting data. Mary Ng is responsible for that file now. She's increased investments for women entrepreneurs during COVID, of course, but Budget 2021 also includes additional supports for them. Women entrepreneurs make up about 16% of businesses. We need to double that number, and our government's committed to ensuring that that happens.
Thank you, Minister. Now we'll go to Ms. Matheson, but Ms. Matheson, if you could raise your mic, we're getting some popping. Wonderful, 2.5 minutes for you.
Because I'm kind of loud sometimes. Madam Minister, you had talked about before Islamophobia, and I'd like to get to that now. As you know, last week I presented a unanimous consent motion in the House asking for a national action summit on Islamophobia. I was pleased to see that that was passed, but one of the key parts of that motion was that a timeline be established and that this summit happen by July 2021. Can you give us an update on, in fact, if this summit will happen within that timeline?
MP Matheson, I appreciate your advocacy. We spoke earlier about the unique role I have around the cabinet table, where it's horizontal and I have a oversight in every file, and I also have the ability to support programming on the ground with investments. Frankly, the department has never had. The department has never existed before either. It came into effect at the same time that the pay equity legislation received royal assent. So I say all this to you because as the first Muslim around the federal table and as the first minister responsible for women and gender equality, I see a lot of responsibility. I feel that responsibility and a lot of opportunity. Minister Chagger has committed to moving forward with a summit to have that conversation about Islamophobia. In terms of timelines, I think it's as quickly as possible. We're having, my team and I, conversations with Muslim women and Muslim women serving organizations because we want to make sure that Muslim women, particularly visible Muslim women wearing hijabs, are shaping the agenda and are taking up the space. But beyond that, MP Matheson, I think it's time to talk about the hate online and how it spills into real life. We need to talk more about white supremacy and the fact that white supremacy, we've seen, is linked to incels, it's linked to misogyny, it's linked to racism. And so beyond the summit, there is important work for us to be done. And Minister Chagar and her team are working very closely with the Prime Minister's office and community leaders to make sure we get this done right.
And I'm certainly glad that you brought that up. So in terms of those timelines, because we're also waiting for a bill and legislation against online hate. You haven't really said whether we're going to meet that July deadline for the summit. I hope we do, because the House promised that. But what about a bill about online hate? Because that's been long overdue as well.
I'm sorry, you're out of time. Now we're going to go to Ms. Shin for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank the Minister for making time out of her busy schedule to join us today. As the Minister has expressed often, I know when she is working on the file for women and gender equality, there is personal passion that fuels her work because of her personal story. Canadians have been gripped by the cesspool of toxic masculinity and sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. My frustration throughout the questionings conducted by our committee has been the lack of personal accountability, despite platitudes on culture change and trauma sensitivity to women victims of sexual assault and misconduct in the armed forces. But surprisingly, I don't know why, but the Minister has been very quiet throughout the deliberations held by the Defence Committee and the Status of Women's Committee. But Canadians are hoping to hear from the Minister of Women and Gender Equality. What does the Minister deem to be her personal accountability on this issue? And does she endorse what many MPs and Canadians perceive of the Minister of Defence's lack of response as abdication? What are her thoughts on the 3-year delayed response to the case of accusations against General Vance? Thank you.
Madam Chair, like every woman, like every Canadian, I am disturbed and disappointed by the lack of progress and the manifestation of inequity and disrespect for women in our institutions. And my commitment to Canadian women, particularly to survivors who've had the courage to come forward, is this. I'll continue to create spaces that are safe and away from partisan spaces so that you can have the opportunity to say what you need to say. I'll continue to work with you and experts to make sure that we have the right supports and processes and protocols in place. And I will continue as an aunt, Madam Chair, who's really excited to watch 2 little girls grow up who believe they can do whatever they want, these fierce young Canadians, to ensure that should they choose to serve in these professions or any other, that every workplace is a safe one for them. And that personal commitment, as well as the Government of Canada's commitment, as well as that of DND and CAF, is a reflection of what we're hearing from Canadians, which is demanding greater action faster. And it's only happening because survivors continue to have the courage to come forward, and they can rest assured that we will continue to move forward in this important work as quickly as we can and keep their voices at the heart of our efforts.
So, Minister, I'd like to ask you, do you feel that the Minister of Defense responded as he should have, or do you feel that there could have been a better response in the timing and how he has deflected from responsibility in all this? Thank you.
The Minister of Defense, I see, is working hard every single day to overcome all sorts of challenges and barriers. And I'm honored to work with him to put an end to this violence and to this hate. It is clear that as a government, as a culture, though we've moved forward significantly, we've not come far enough. And we've renewed our commitment to move forward faster and appreciate every time Canadians demand us to move forward on this file. Gender-based violence has been stigmatized.
I appreciate the minister's desire to see this
out in the open.
So I would like to ask, would you agree with me that personal accountability is primary and most important if we're going to see a culture shift?
I think the most important thing in all this, Madam Chair, is keeping survivors at the heart of our efforts and listening to them and taking our lead from them, which is exactly what our government is doing.
Minister, unless there is a culture shift, we'll always be having to defend the women instead of going after what needs to be gone after, which are the perpetrators.
I hope, Madam Chair, that colleagues will vote for the budget to move forward, which includes $236 million to do the work that my colleagues just referred to.
Very good. And now we will go to Ms. Saeed for the last 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for appearing before the committee today. The last few days have been very difficult, and both of us witnessed the funeral, the 4 innocent lives lost to hatred and Islamophobia. This incident of the attack on the London family hits very close to me. It hit close to my home because as a hijab-wearing woman, as a Muslim woman, as an immigrant woman who came to Canada in 1999, a person who loves to walk in her neighborhood named Salman, my first question to myself was that it could have been asked for. I know in the last 5.5 years, as we have done a lot of work as a government to combat Islamophobia. And there is a lot of work ahead to break the walls of hatred which we have erected around us and to combat Islamophobia so that no mother feels scared dropping her hijab-wearing young girl to a school. No young woman is scared to travel in public transit wearing a hijab. Since this tragic incident, I've been talking to many families. In Scarborough, we organized a community walk where people from all walks of life, people from different faiths came together. So can you please expand on the work which you have done and what work needs to be done going forward to make sure that we can combat Islamophobia and hate?
MP Zahid, I want to thank you for your incredible leadership. And, you know, in your capacity as chair of Citizenship and Immigration Committee, in your capacity as a parliamentarian and as a community leader, it has been inspiring watching you overcome challenge after challenge and still rise. I thank you for that because you are a role model for so many right now who are afraid to put on the hijab. And what I say to them and to the moms who are afraid to let their hijabi daughters go outside to go for a walk because they're afraid for their safety is we can't let the terrorists win. They want us to be afraid of who we are. They want us to not be who we are, and they want to prevent our progress and contribution to Canada, and we can't let that happen. I also, Madam Chair, want to acknowledge that all of us across parties have Muslim staffers. There are more Muslim staff working on Parliament Hill, albeit virtually now, than ever before. And I'm sure everybody's taken the time to check in on them because they're carrying a lot of this and they're behind the scenes, you know, in the back rooms, but they're carrying a lot of the grief and the trauma that has come towards Muslims, particularly over the last month since Eid. My colleague is a really good example of how communities can be mobilized to do the right thing, to put down those walls of hate. And if she continues to work with my team and I, will make sure that we build up the community capacity to respond to this hate. I also want to take this opportunity, Madam Chair, to speak to hijabi Muslims in Alberta who are experiencing violent incident after another in public spaces simply because they choose to worship as they do and they are proud to be who they are out in the streets and in public spaces. The hate that you're experiencing is not okay. And our government stands with you and condemns all forms of Islamophobia and hate. There's no place for that hate in Canada, but we are reckoning with some disturbing realities about our wonderful country. And we have an opportunity through the budget to continue to invest in the Anti-Racism Secretariat, to continue to invest in community-based programming. And Salma Zahid, My goodness, I'm sorry that you feel afraid to go outside into the streets and to just take that afternoon or evening stroll, because so many of us have left countries and have come to this place so that we could be free to worship as we do, and that persecution that we continue to feel is not okay. Madam Chair, this is probably the most heavy conversation I've had at this committee in the 12 times I've appeared before you. And that's really saying a lot, because it has been an interesting experience every time. MP Zahid, thanks again for your leadership. I appreciate you, and I continue to draw inspiration from you.
Thank you, Minister.
Very good. Well, you'll be very pleased with what we're going to be studying next. So what I would say is thank you to the Minister for coming today. And of course, we've had a great discussion about the estimates, the supplementary estimates. And so we have to vote the motions on those. And so at this point, I'll just read them out. Shall vote 1A under Department for Women and Gender Equality carry? All in favor? Very good. Shall vote 5A under Department for Women and Gender Equality carry? All in favor? Opposed? Good, carry. Shall I report the supplementary estimates A 2021-2022 to the House? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Very good. So those are the motions that we had to read. Now, if I could ask the members to log off from the public venue and log into the in-camera, we'll go into our committee business for the day. Thank you again to the Minister, and we'll see you later on the other side.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, everyone.
Minister. Thank you.